I'm a firm believer in making education practical. So I've shared this example over and over. Whenever I want to introduce something to my children, I don't want to just show them something in black and white in a textbook. I like to make it come alive. So if we're talking about an apple, instead of showing them a picture of an apple and saying, there's the leaf, there's a stem, I want to get an apple. If I want to introduce a president to them, maybe it's about giving them all the information that I have. But then if there's a monument, taking them to it. So for example, there's a park probably like 10 minutes away from me, and it's called Lincoln Park for Abraham Lincoln. So we drove over there and they saw the statue. It really helps to enhance learning. Another thing I did was when we were learning about George Washington, I gave them a lot of content and we drove from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to Washington's Crossing, where they were able to see and relive exactly what happened during the time of the battle where we won Trenton. On the car ride back, there were so many conversations that were ignited as a result of them seeing it. I don't think we'd have had the rich conversations we did had it just been them learning from a book. Now, there's some books that do really good job, a really great job at storytelling, making history really come alive. So I don't want to discredit those, but I do want to show and belabor the point that modeling something and showing something practically is such a great way to teach. Why do I share that? Today, we're going to talk about the fruits of the Spirit. Now, some of you may know from Galatians 5:20, 22, and 23 that the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. A lot of us may have learned a song about it when we were younger, maybe we're teaching our kids. But the reason I share this is because I want to share some practical tips for displaying the fruits of spirit in your everyday life. So that can be something as simple as starting with prayer. When we begin our day with prayer and we express gratitude and we seek guidance and, really ask for the fruits of the spirit to be present in our home, that's one powerful and practical way of setting a positive tone where we create this atmosphere of joy and peace and love in our home, right? In the mornings when our kids wake up, instead of go get your pencil, go get your book, we can greet them warmly and encourage them with kind words. We should definitely be incorporating Bible study in our everyday life so that it's not just a Sunday thing or a midweek Wednesday Bible study, but it's an everyday lifestyle that they will continue even after they leave the home. We want to do character building activities where instead of just saying, love your brother, love your sister, be kind, that we're building character, right? We're having conversations that focus on the character that we want them to develop. So maybe it's something where you see that one of your children needs to work on self-control. It's easy for us to just be like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and just share what we see there's a need for. But it's so much more powerful when we can, one, model it, and two, show them someone else, maybe in a story, who's going through, trouble with self-control and they're eating all the cookies or they're running around where they're supposed to be seated. It's easier to see someone else's flaws. So when you show it to children in that way, they can see the character, talk about the character, and then be able to incorporate it in their own lives when it's not coming from a judgmental or harsh place where they can't receive it. And you want to teach conflict resolution where children don't have to constantly come to you to be the referee. They can learn the importance of forgiveness and understanding and resolving issues with kindness. Another thing that's really powerful is service and outreach. A lot of times, because we want to do good by our children, we unintentionally create entitled children, right? So when we allow them to engage in service projects or community outreach together, not only is it an act of kindness and generosity, but it provides practical ways for them to express their love and goodness. So we want to just help them to, just operate in the fruits of the spirit without just like throwing it down their throats, but really giving them practical ways. A great way is just reflection and discussion, allowing them to talk about which one is hard for them, or allowing them to talk about which one comes very naturally, or which one they see in you, right? What an interesting conversation that would be. So I talked high level about how to incorporate the fruits of the Spirit in your everyday lifestyle. Now I want to give some practical examples of each one. So let's talk about love. We want to show affection and express love in a warm way. We want to demonstrate empathy, which is a really great way to show love by just understanding and considering others' feelings. A lot of times we tell our children, hey, don't do that because that's not love. Or how would you feel if your brother or sister did that to you? I think it's also important, just like how we make the effort to take the kids to the museum and we take them to the science center so that they can see and model what we're teaching, it's also important to model this behavior. So we want to prioritize quality time with our children, not just quantity time, not just academic time, but also nurturing the relationship so that we show that we love them. Another one is joy. We want to cultivate a positive attitude and just positive outlook on life. We want to find joy in the simple pleasures and celebrate achievements, both big and small. You have a kid who is struggling in math and they finally cracked the code and now they know how to regroup or they know how to do that 2-digit multiplication. That's grounds for celebration. And then we bring the joy into it, right? So it's not just finally you did the thing. It's wow, let's be happy about what you did. Let's express joy. Let's rejoice in the Lord that you got to this milestone. We want to share enthusiasm for learning and discovery. That's a very practical way of showing joy as a fruit of the Spirit. Now, in terms of peace, a lot of us are peacemakers. To be honest, my boys do not fight a lot. Sometimes it's about something very small, like I want this bowl of oatmeal instead of that bowl, right? And you're looking at the bowls like, really, what difference do you see, kids? Sometimes it's something really small, or sometimes it's the random toy that they haven't played with in X amount of months, and now it's wow, the thing that's so important to everyone. But in the grand scheme of things, my kids don't fight a lot. So I don't play a lot of referee and I'm not constantly being the peacemaker. But in the case where you are being that peacemaker, you want to handle conflicts calmly and seek peaceful resolutions, right? It's no sense in us saying that they need to do something, but we're not modeling it. Or teaching is not just what we say, it's also what we do. So we need to be cognizant of that. Easier said than done. I get it. I know that. So for peace, we want to create a peaceful home environment by setting clear expectations and routines. There's safety in routine. So I'm not saying every day you have to do something at 9 a.m., but maybe there's a flow. Whatever time you start, this is the order in which you do it so that it creates that peace and it sets them up so that they know what to expect. That's very important. And for patience, I want to just talk about practicing patience in moments of frustration and stress. It is so easy for us to get triggered by something. And I don't know if you're yelling or exploding or blowing up, but you're probably reacting or responding in ways that you're not always proud of, right? How great of an opportunity is it for us to model patience in those moments when we do not feel patient? When we're patient enough to give our children time to learn and grow at their pace, even though it's the 25th time that we show them how to do that problem or the 25th time that they saw that word that we're teaching them. We need to model self-control and patience in situations that require waiting and tolerance and patience. That's a great way to show patience. Moving on to kindness. We can be intentional about using kind words. And when I say intentional, it doesn't have to be inauthentic where you're saying something you don't believe, but making sure that you're intentional about giving a compliment where a compliment is due. So again, going back to the struggling math learner or the struggling reader, be kind in those moments. Give them grace, but be kind when they finally get it so that you can demonstrate acts of kindness. And also towards others. When they see that you're kind to others, they will also start to practice that on their own. It was interesting because 2 days ago, we're in the store, and as we're walking, I kept hearing my oldest son say hi to everyone that he was passing. And I was like, I know that I've taught them to be polite, but I didn't say, make sure we say hello to everyone in the store, but they were modeling it. I'm the kind of person who wants to talk to everybody that I see as I walk by. And I think he sees that and he took that in as something that he wants to do as well. So when I see people, I'm like, hi, good morning. Hi, how are you? Hi, and I saw him doing it and I was like, wow, that was a result of me modeling. Now, I'm sharing that, but I'm not sharing all the things that I'm not modeling so well. Like when I'm not being kind to them, or when I'm not being patient, or when I'm not, um, being that peacemaker. We all have things that we need to work on. So we're going to give ourselves grace too. We're modeling this for our kids, but we also want to give ourselves grace. And we want to encourage our children to be kind to each other. I know we do it, but the way we deliver it is what's really going to generate that longevity. Goodness. I was listening to a message yesterday and I heard a pastor share his definition of goodness. And it was such a beautiful definition. First, he started talking about goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, right? You've heard that scripture before. And I've heard people describe mercy over and over as not getting what you deserve, right? So maybe you're supposed to be punished for something, but you did not get punished, and that's mercy. The pastor described goodness as the opposite. So it's getting the thing even when you don't deserve it. And I thought that was such a beautiful definition because when you engage in acts of kindness and generosity, that's one thing. But when you're good to someone who doesn't deserve it, when you're nice to someone who's getting on your very last nerve, that just demonstrates moral integrity and ethical behavior. But you're teaching your children the value of doing good for others. So when you start to see that model in your home, it is such a heartwarming and beautiful thing to watch. And then there's faithfulness. It comes a lot with consistency, right? So we need to be reliable, we need to keep our promises, and we need to demonstrate commitment to our family and to our responsibilities. We need to discuss the importance of just faithfulness in relationships and in our endeavors. So we want to teach our kids not to give up. We want to teach our kids to be faithful and true to their word and to their promises. So whatever they say, that they actually fulfill it and they do it. And we just want to, again, model faithfulness so that they see us. Our actions are so loud. Sometimes we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but our actions are so powerful. That's what they're watching. We're almost done. I know I'm getting into a lot of areas where we know we need to work on. It may not always be fun to listen to, but it's important. So just two more. Gentleness. This is one that I could work on. I am not the Mary Poppins mom of, okay, kids, here's what we're going to do today. Gather around, children. It's time to do your work. That is so not me. I am not that person. And I'm not always the person who has, the high-pitched voice or the fun voice. That's not me. I'm just a very practical and logical person. And I won't say I'm rigid, but I'm very to the book. This is what we're doing. Let's not play around. Let's not joke around. Nobody has time for the foolishness. That's my personality. So using a gentle tone of voice in our approach for of communication, handling conflicts with gentleness and grace and ease, and an understanding demeanor, that is definitely something I need to work on. And modeling gentleness in our interactions with others, also, and probably especially in correcting or discipline. I think that's very, very important. And I'll be the first one to say that that is an area that I need to work on as it relates to my children, just being gentle with them. Because I'm such a no nonsense person, if I know that I've communicated something, especially over 2 times, that's my threshold. It's only 2 times. Especially if I've spoken to you about something a couple times, then now I'm thinking about something else. What is the reason that this is so hard for you to obey? What is the reason that I have to keep repeating this? And that's when I'm not gentle. Maybe the first time I'm a little gentle or a little understanding, making sure that there was no miscommunication or misunderstanding. But after knowing that I said this a couple times, then I'm like, okay, enough of the foolishness. You hear me use the word foolishness a lot. I don't like foolishness. So you want to model gentleness in your interaction with your children, with others, with your spouse, especially in front of your kids, because they're always watching. They're always listening. All right, so enough of gentleness. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And then the last one is self-control. We need to exhibit self-discipline and self-control, not just in our actions, but in managing our emotions. So when we're disciplining our children, we're interacting with them, this goes back to gentleness. How are we talking to them? Are we losing our cool? Are we walking in self-control? Because it sounds a little hypocritical if we're telling them to have self-control and to focus and to eliminate distractions and to, you know, regulate their emotions and have healthy habits and all these things. It's a wee little bit hypocritical if we're telling them to do that. And as adults, we're not doing that ourselves. All right. So self-control is something that I know that I need to work on, especially as it comes to food. I'm such an optimistic person that I'm like, woo, celebration, yippee, let's celebrate, let's get cake, let's get ice cream, or it's a summertime, let's get lemonade, let's get this. And then what should have been an act of joy or an act of goodness now becomes gluttonous, right? So it's a delicate balance. So we want to make sure as we're engaging in the fruits of the spirit that we're not going overboard because nothing in excess is good. So we want to live a life of moderation and make sure that we're walking in self-control. So I did not come on here to beat you up or to make you feel bad or to make you cognizant of the fact that you probably have to work on a lot of things. But I did come on here to remind you that sharing and talking is powerful, but modeling is so much more important. So remember, modeling is a continuous process, and we serve a God who's graceful and he is good and he's kind and he exhibits all the fruits of the Spirit. So if you have been completely missing all of them, or 2/3 of them, or most of them, give grace to yourself. And remember, you don't need to wait until the new year to start something. You don't need to wait for the new month. You don't need to wait for a new day. You can start right now. The power of now. It is so powerful to have that mental assent of, okay, I need to change that, but then practically and intentionally implement it. You don't have to wait until tomorrow. You can start now. So it's okay to acknowledge your mistakes and to learn from them and to move on. It's okay to be open with your kids and say, hey, mommy wasn't really walking in self-control. It is okay to apologize, right? It is beautiful when we regularly communicate with our children about the values that we want for them and the ones that we're modeling, and maybe even share authentically and transparently that there's some of them that we're still working on, right? And that's why we want to encourage them to work on it so that when they're adults, they would have had it down by that time. So let's just foster an open and supportive environment for learning and growth, and let us walk in the fruits of the Spirit so that we can model it for our kids, which is such a powerful way of teaching. So as always, I would love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know which ones you're the expert on and you have mastered. Let me know what you're grappling with, and let me know some practical ways that you're implementing the fruits of spirits in your world, in your life, in your homeschool day. Talk to you soon.